What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Kairos Pacific University show. I'm your host, Rita Saikali, and today I have a very empowering woman that is out to change the world one healthcare service at a time. She is incredible, and she's just such a joy to have and such a joy to talk to. Today, my guest is Miss Penelope Foskaris, and she is a founder and a CEO. She has her own cookbooks. She has her own clinics. She does Foskaris Wellness. She also did the research and development and started this entire thing on red light therapy and its red light pro devices. It is so incredible, and I'm so excited and thrilled to talk to you, Miss Penelope. Welcome in. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm amazing. Thank you so much. I know we had a little technical difficulties on setting up, but we got this. And I was telling people, like, you just got to keep doing it and don't allow outside energies, like we talked about, to stop you from what you want to say. And with anything, I think that's sometimes we have technical difficulties or we're afraid to speak. And I want to just like open it up to, like, I remember when I was doing cooking segments on TV, I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm like, I've never been on TV before. This is going to be crazy. And I thought, if I don't speak and I don't get out there, then the person who needed to hear me won't hear it. I won't be serving God and helping those people. So the things I always talk about is that for sure.
That's one of the most brilliant things to start with, because you know what? There are so many people out here maybe listening today that are afraid, that can't face their fears. Now, you've started multiple businesses. You've ran with so many different ideas and projects and things that are outside of the box for most people. And nothing stopped you. How did you get to the point where nothing stopped you?
You know, I serve God. I'm here to serve. I'll just tell you from I've been through my trials and tribulations, and sometimes I was like, the business was thriving. I'm like, oh my God, how am I doing this? Like so amazing, right? Just and other times you're like, am I going to have enough people coming through the door to pay the bills, right? Because things shift in the market, and we'll talk about that. I think with business is really being open to which way is God turning you? Because sometimes if we don't go down, we talk about having a springboard, and when we go down, we might think we're at a low point, and then all of a sudden, God's like, yeah, I had you. If you're too comfortable doing what you're doing, you're not going to pivot. And I look at those points when we go down a little bit, that it's a springboard, and then it's like, boom, right? Things start to explode. So I think for me, like, so I'll just share with you, I was, went to school, become a nutritionist. Um, and I was like, what am I wanting to do exactly? I had been helping people on the side, my family, when I was in 16. I'm 57 years old now. Okay. So I was probably 16 years old when I started thinking about, like, how could I help my aunt naturally? She was a type 1 diabetic. I would like help her. She's eating terrible food and I feel that's another ailment. And I was like, okay, I'm going to the library, and I was spent hours and hours and hours, right? Because there was no chat GPT, there's no AI to help you to find the studies. Because now at least we can still look at studies, and it doesn't take as long to start analyzing and then seeing which direction you need to hone in on, right? To start with when you're doing research, because it's about getting AI to do the research for you. It's to find the articles and start doing your own research. That's one I want to talk about, because a lot of times I actually had a patient yesterday that was like, oh, I'm in pain, and she snapshotted what ChatGPT just told her. I'm like, that's like taking a synopsis of everybody's ideas and ideologies, not just studies too, right? So we have to look beyond that. But I think for me, I really wanted to help people. And I just we think like everybody's so different. It's not one way to help people. And that, so especially with like weight loss too, a lot of times people come in and they think they're eating too much, right? And and a lot of times they're eating too little. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So I was like, how do I do this, right? So when I created the wellness center, I was like, I need to have data that's captured, to show proof what this person needs to do. That way they're not just thinking I'm looking in a crystal ball. Okay. Because a lot of times people, whether it is for weight loss or something else, when you can show what you're doing has merit and you've done this, so when I built the wellness center, I was like, have this machine that shows you how many calories you need. I'm going to show you, let's create a relaxation room, right? So I just started looking at what modalities, and I want to say to people, like, when I had the center and I had my relaxation was saunas, and I light and sound therapy class that help with PTSD, depression, or even weight loss. I didn't really look for these modalities. They were like brought to me. I just told me, like, it was like I used to tell me, like, when I had the clinic for 6 years, I just moved into another clinic now. I was like, what else do I need, God, to serve your people? And like, a friend of mine was at a conference, met the CEO of a company or CFO of a company that made light and sound therapy glasses, and I had never heard of them. And she's like, oh my God, Penny, you got to get these. They're going to help a lot of people. And I was like, okay, I'll buy one to try it out. And I was like, holy cow, there's 30 years of research or 40 years of research on this modality that helps people, right? So things were brought, and I had this amazing center that even though we advertised weight loss, people would tell me, I clicked on your ad. I've never clicked on an ad. And I'm like, because God brought you to me, right? And I helped them. And that what they needed help with was not weight loss. It was something else, whether it was for them or their family. So I think the way that I created things was listening to what God wanted me to do. Of course, you still have to do your schooling, right? You have to do your studying. And then you really need to learn about business if you're going to open up a business too, because you could fail. Even though I'd been working, my family in the restaurant business my whole life. Grew up when I was 7 years old. We opened our first restaurant and had multiple businesses. I feel like before you get really busy what you're doing, you have to set up your structure. Because I found, like, I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And I did. And we got really busy really fast that I didn't have the foundation built. And all of a sudden I looked around and there was like paperwork everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a system, right? So I think kind of a digressing, but I think that setting up your systems in place, first of all, before you do anything, having those foundations set up. So whether it's your bookkeeper, having, like, I had my bookkeeper, but I didn't have, like, I had to like go through piles of papers to give it to her when it was time at the end of the month, and putting the system in place, like QuickBooks integrated, right? So that would take less time to figure out at the end of the month. So there was things that I had to pull in the reins and go, okay, wait a second. Let's get everything in place and then go forward more again. So I was talking about business because people look at starting businesses, but they don't look at the back end. And so it's been a journey of trusting God for sure. Because sometimes you could be in a moment and go, am I actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Or am I actually going to drown? Am I going to make it? And I'm like, and I must say, the moment we put our trust in God, the answers are revealed. We forget to ask God. I forget to ask God sometimes, like, what am I supposed to do next? Or I feel like I'm drowning, but I'm really not, right? Never had enough money in the bank to like pay for anything because I feel like I was getting really, really low. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to drown. Like, God, what is it? What am I supposed to do? I can't do this. And then all of a sudden, like 2 days later, the money that needed to come in came in. So amazing.
He's extremely faithful. And, one thing that I loved out of everything, all of what you're saying is great, but there's one thing that really stands out to me. It's the practicality of that faith. We go to church, and church tells us, or the scriptures tell us, in general, well, when you get to actually studying theology, it'll tell you in practicality how to put it in. But you go to church, or most people do, and there's a sense of, okay, believe in God and you will be saved, but they don't know how it looks like on the ground. And I think what you're saying gives me this picture of, oh, well, how does God work in our lives? Well, I did my part and I studied and I did this. But as I'm doing my part, I stopped and asked, what else do I have? or where can I go, or what do I need? And he was supplying everything else. So it's that work in partnership, which I think you highlighted so beautifully and so profoundly with your relationship with him. How do you feel that he has placed you in these things when there's an argument that could be said that you did the work as well?
Let's repeat that last part because I think the audio is can't hear it. I'm sorry.
Sorry. So the question, I suppose, would be, when you see yourself growing and when you see God's hand in this, where do you say, oh, this was me? Or how do you stop yourself from saying this was me and really knowing that this is God?
Mm. Well, I will share with you a few years back. I went through some hard times in my life and I decided to put my life in God's hands, right? And I just, I sit there, everything comes through me when I'm speaking. Um, I think that everything that comes that we have, all of these technologies and all of these amazing things is because God helped the person create it. So I think it is, I'll tell you, I grew up, going to church. I'm gonna back up a little bit. I grew up going to church. I was in the choir. We went every Sunday. And I think, always wondered, is there, what is out there, right? You wonder, like, what is it? And, there was a time when, gosh, I think it was in 2008 is where it really, really shifted for me. And I have a really good friend, we're raised with, and her daughter was almost 17, and she was she was she was driving, she was texting, and unfortunately she post freeway passed away. And there were so many things that happened after that. You have to look at, sometimes they're like, things happen and it was devastating. And this girl here, she is almost 17. She had almost 1,000 people at her funeral because she already had impacted so many people. Okay. And there was just, I would say at that point, amazingly crazy things that happened after that, like not explainable. And like her picture was like on a stand in the garage, and her dad went out to the garage and there's light coming through the ceiling in the garage. Like it was just incredible. And her friends were um, helping getting the little books ready for the funeral, and they were going to go get Starbucks. And her friend's daughter, who was maybe 2.5, 3 years old at the time, was playing in front of Kayla's doorway at the house. And so when the girl said, hey, we're going to get coffee and come back, the little girl turned to them and she wants to go too. And she was pointing, she could see her in the room. Right. And there was just a lot of things. Like I used to be really clumsy and drop things. And I had taken Angel to her mom's at the house, and I don't know, someone like elbowed it, or I elbowed it on the counter, and I literally just like wrapped it. After that, it was like I'm grabbing things that I usually drop. But this was what really happened, which was really amazing. I used to go every so often visit Kayla in San Diego, where she's buried at the gravesite. And this particular day, I went to go it was around Christmas time, and I think it was December 9th. I still have the picture of what I took that day. I have to send it to you. But I went there to pray, and back because those sprinklers were going crazy. Like I literally basically got a car wash in 2 seconds because the big high-powered sprinklers to get through to go to where she's buried. And I was going to take her a Christmas tree, and I was like, gosh darn it, the sprinklers are on right now. I could try to run to take it to her. I'll just sit back and pray. And as I sat back and prayed, there was a rainbow coming down, shining down from the sprinklers to where she was buried. Okay. And so I just sat back and took a picture for her mom to see the rainbow going down to where Kayla was buried. Her mom had put like this 3-foot Christmas tree on her plot, and it was just gorgeous. And so I get emotional at this. So I took the picture, and when I took the picture, it was clearly a pink Christmas tree that was on her plot. And I, we shared it. And every time I shared it, it was amazing. Like people like, wow, you sent it to me 3 times. Whether I sent it text, I sent it one time, it was sent 3 times. I emailed it, it was sent 3 times. Like I'm like, okay. and and so then 3 months later, I was showing someone the picture. And I was like, that's interesting that this picture changed. And when I took it, it was a pink Christmas tree under this rainbow. And when I looked at it, I'm going to send you this picture too. So a couple months later, I went to look at it. Now, mind you, I had printed that picture. It was on my wall at my desk at the office. And when I went to the office, this picture had changed from the office. That's all I could tell you. Um, but when I looked at it again to show someone, it looked like there was a, a woman standing under the rainbow with a pink top, yellow skirt, and blue arms. And it's so apparent. And I was like, why did this picture change? Like, I don't get it, right? Because I'd seen it so many times, and I just thought it was so glorious with this rainbow coming down. And I would ask God, I said, why did this even look like it changed, right? Why did it change? And so I would say a couple of years later, I went to, I would visit her every so often, and a particular day I got back in the car. There was a song by the band Perry called If I Die. And the song says, Lord, make me a rainbow and shine down on my mother to let her know that I'm safe under your colors. And I called my friend Kelly and I said, wow, this is what's happened today. I said, I haven't heard this song a couple years, and here this picture has changed, and I don't know why, but now it's telling me, Lord, make me a rainbow. And this looked like it was a mom under this rainbow. And then the next day I get a call from Kelly and her mom, Kayla's mom, and she said, I was telling Kayla's friend about this. And she said the next part of the song is a penny for your thoughts. And so I was the messenger that day to let her mom know it was okay. So it's pretty amazing. If you look at the picture, I've shared it so many times, and it's funny because that particular picture is on my emails. It's on my, like at the top of my favorites, right? And there was a day I was getting my hair done with this new hairdresser. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's fretting over these shoes and it's no big deal. Let me help her with a little spirituality and God in her life. And I looked for the whole hour and a half I was there. I could not pull up that picture. Okay. And I realized at that point, it happened 3 times since I've had that picture, that it's God's picture. It doesn't belong to me. And maybe some people aren't ready to see it and receive. And so for a while, I would just look to make sure I could find the picture before I would say I would share it, because I wouldn't want to make someone, I want to say, well, sorry, you can't see it. God doesn't work that way. So I don't know. I think, again, going back to how do I know whether it's me? And it's funny because I was at a local restaurant and I was sitting at the bar area I was eating. I was telling someone how God has helped me create my clinic and my wellness center. And the gentleman that was with the lady was like, why can't you just say you did it? Why can't you say you've been successful because of you? I was like, because God helped me with everything. Like, I asked for him to help and guide me. And then the girl that was with him said, he doesn't believe in God. And I was like, okay, well, that's okay. That's his journey. I don't want to convince them. It's part of their thing. But for me, I give glory to God because I do believe that he has introduced things to me. Like even my red light devices, I didn't plan on making red light devices. There's so many on the market. The ones in the clinic, I could help people with weight loss, neuropathy treatments, all these different things. And people would ask me, how about something for my elbow, knee, and shoulder? And they were like, well, I go try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll probably reshort it. And nothing was working like we had in the clinic. They weren't taking away the pain. And so then I worked with, and actually first there was a company that was making my relay devices, and I asked them to help me make these devices. And they said, nah, not interested, because the machines that they were making were $28,000 big machines, pads and this whole system. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to figure out, someone's going to help me with this. So I found another company that was making red light therapy devices, but very weak ones, and they wouldn't really, like, that do nothing. So I work with engineers, and we did R&D back and forth. I was testing at pickleball games because in tournaments because I had a lot of people that needed my help. And I got them to where I knew when I helped this lady who had tennis elbow, we put on her elbow for not even the 15 minutes. And she went and played for 2.5 hours. And her husband was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Her pain doesn't come back here. And he was like throwing money at us, right? And another person. And I was like, okay, we got it right. Of course, I had the engineers help me, right? Because I'm an engineer. My son's an engineer. But I just found a need in the market. And I do believe that sometimes God puts things in your mind that you got to do this. And I've helped so many people with pain and inflammation, even to the point we had a gentleman, my mom's friend's husband, fell from a second-story ladder. He was in the hospital like 3 months. After he was in the hospital, he was still, healing, and his hand his fingers only just a little bit. And so I took him one of our gloves, we put his hand in, and in 15 minutes, he was doing this. Literally, whole moves. Now, I didn't heal his nerves or anything, but we reduced inflammation enough to know he can do therapy. The poor gentleman couldn't even open a door by himself anymore. He needed assistance. So now he could start strengthening his hands to start getting better, which he did.
Wow. That's all so incredible. I don't even know where to start. One, thank you for sharing your testimony and the story. Two, I want to ask you, okay, can we back up and explain to our audience what is red light therapy?
Okay, so red light therapy. So we have red light and we have near infrared light, and then we also have far infrared. So I'm just going to real fast because a lot of people are getting confused with saunas because they're looking at the advertising says red light sauna. And we'll go into what red light therapy does in just a second. But infrared saunas have a far spectrum that helps. It goes through clothing, helps with circulation. The red lights in the sauna are just more mood lighting. Just want to put that out there because that's one of the biggest questions I have. But red light therapy, which is the infrared, right, different spectrums. Red is in the 600 nanometer, and infrared goes into like 100, 900. It's an invisible spectrum. But what it does, whether it's the near infrared or the red light, is it goes all over every part of our body. And I'll tell you why it does so many things. Our whole body is made up of cells. Our eyes, our skin, all of our organs, and our cells each have mitochondria, which produce adenosine triphosphate, right? ATP, that's the battery. So the mitochondria is able to produce ATP. So the light therapy goes in and helps the mitochondria produce more ATP. That it helps reduce inflammation. So when we look at the structure of the cell, now we energize it. Just like we take our phone, we charge it. If we don't charge it, what happens? It doesn't work. As we get older, or if there's a dysfunction in the body, our cells don't work as well. So we can go in and help rev up the cells in the brain. So we can help with memory and cognition. A lot of people hear about red light therapy and skincare, right? All these masks on the market, and people are like, do they really work for wrinkles? Well, some work better than others, but yes, the concept of the light therapy on the cells, because we're helping the cells work again to what? Produce elastin, produce collagen. I'm 57. I have my makeup on. I have no Botox, no fillers. I have less wrinkles I do now than 7 years ago before I started doing red light therapy, because it helps repair the skin because we are able to increase ATP production so those cells can do what they need to do. And just like with the gentleman, you're able to reduce inflammation. So it goes in there, reduces the inflammation. So we can now get everything going. And we can also, like if he keeps using it, can help start repairing the nerves that are damaged. Same with neuropathy patients. They can't feel their feet or they have pain. And we've had a gentleman who had neuropathy for 13 years. One side had gone from his feet all the way up to his knee. The other side was just his foot. And he literally, in 2 sessions, it started dissipating and going down and going away because the light therapy was able to start regenerating the nerves. And I think there's 8,000 studies or more on what light therapy does for the body. It's pretty amazing. Even with eyesight, I actually have one of the customers on the red light therapy side. She was using red light therapy behind her neck and her head, and she's 67. And She went to get her eyes checked, and the doctor said, "What are you doing?" For the first time, instead of it getting worse, her eyesight was getting better. The only thing she had changed was to use light therapy. Now she even got the dome because she wants to do it in the front. I have been wearing glasses since I was in junior high. And when I first got red light therapy 6 years ago, we didn't know if the near infrared spectrum was good for the eyes, but now there's studies that it is. So I stopped wearing the goggles a couple of years ago. I don't wear glasses anymore. I can see all the license plates that I couldn't read before, all the street signs that I had to wear my glasses for. And when I went this past October to renew my driver's license, she said, "No corrective lenses?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Are you wearing contacts?" And I said, "No." And I'm like, look, no contacts. She didn't believe me because I could read the letters.
That's so, I wish this was public knowledge. Like, I'm so happy we're having this conversation because I read a lot and I work in a lot of different sectors, but I've never come across any of this. And the only context in which I've seen red light therapy is, as you were saying, in skincare. And it was very like in passing, you know what I mean? And it's one of those things, as you were saying, like, oh, does this actually work or does this not work? What would you say to people who don't know where to start with all of this?
For health or wellness, or business?
For red light therapy, generally for health. Like,
okay.
If you were to, someone was to come to you and say, "Hey, where do I begin?"
So we start off with anything that I do. So even with red light therapy, I'm like, let me see what is it you need? Like, what is it that when someone has issues, let's start with like someone has knee issues, right? We can give them a red light therapy pack. But I also would recommend infrared sauna to help with synovial fluid, because we need the fluid to be working in the joints. So there's looking at, I would say, biostacking, biohacking. It's another big word that people keep hearing, but I like the hacking because I consider hack as how can we speed something, right? So when a patient comes to me, like I actually, through the office I'm at, they had sent me 3 patients last month that I did not send them to we have a full red light bed that regenerates everything all at the same time. It has a panel for the brain, gets the whole body. It looks like a tanning bed, but it's all LEDs. And actually, this is where we should actually start. I'm thinking there's a difference between red light that really works and red light that doesn't. And I think that's what it would be good to educate the audience on, is if, for example, there's a lot of red light therapy beds out there that are tube lighting. There's any beds, because those cost maybe like $5,000 or $10,000 to buy one. And they're like, "Oh, we'll just change some of the lights out and put a red tube light." Well, that's just a glow of light from a red tube. And when we're looking at red light therapy, it's an LED and it shines. I forgot to bring I have a little pen thing, but imagine, let me grab this pen. So just like when you have a flashlight, right? It shines in, and the farther you pull it apart, what happens? It gets wider and weaker, the light, right? So same with LEDs and so lasers true lasers have to be used by a doctor that is specially trained, and they'll have it and they have to keep moving or they will burn the patient. Okay. Because we can only have so much at the same time. When we're looking at low energy diodes, those are LEDs. Those are safe. We put them on the body. Red light does not go through clothing. Okay. We'll see in the advertisements because we have to, have people clothed to advertise, but it truly should be on the body to work. It can't work through the clothing. Okay. So we have to look at LEDs, and then how far apart are the LEDs as well? And what is the strength? So with the pads that I created, we have more lights per square inch than any other device on the consumer market. The way that I made them was the way that we have them in the clinics, is that closer together, the power, so we can have the strength to do something. Like I have a lady who's been using this red light face mask for 2.5 years. And I said, "Do you see a difference?" She goes, "I think maybe." And I'm like, if you look at before and after pictures, what we do in the clinic, in 2 weeks, we have more results than that person had in 2 years because it was not really doing anything.
And are these products like
to do it?
Sorry, are these products sold to the person, or are they sold to the to clinics? So like to people
we sell, and they're the same power, the same strength. So we to the clinics. They usually buy a whole system, or they use them in the clinic and then they sell them to their patients. So I wanted people to have the power in their hands to either buy the devices, and now if someone has pain and inflammation, they could use them 3 or 4 times a day to be able to heal that area faster, because the red light therapy energizes the cells so the body can heal itself. That's why it works so well. And then we look at infrared saunas. I love them because it helps the circulatory system work better. When we're looking at a regular heat sauna, we detoxify and we warm up by just sweating. But when we're looking at it, a far infrared sauna is going and detoxifying the cells and helping the whole circulatory system work.
You know, you're saying all this stuff. You're saying all this, and all I could think of, I'm like, I need to get my dad to go. I need my dad to go get all this stuff done.
I sponsored on the National Pickleball League. I sponsored a team this year, and they actually won the championship. They won the whole league, and it was so exciting. And one of the players too said it was, due to having the red light therapy at their disposal, which helped them also make sure the players had it. Because if you can reduce inflammation right away, you can get back to what you're doing. And that's what I wanted to do, was like, the main focus that I've been always in office was weight loss. But if you tell someone who wants to lose weight, go walking, and they can't, how can they achieve that? How can somebody who wants to exercise for their heart, which we all should be walking and doing some type of exercise, if you can walk because your ankle or your knee or your hip is hurting, how can you actually do that? So when we can actually get to the root cause, because even that, telling someone to exercise, we look at root cause of diseases, but I also look at root cause as to a person wants to go walking. What's the root cause that they can't do the walking? Oh, it's because their knee is hurting. Well, let's fix that. And even with weight loss, a lot of times people say, how come you don't focus on exercise first? Well, if somebody's not eating enough food, to support the body, even if they exercise, they're not going to lose weight because the body's in starvation mode. So we're looking at two different things, right? So we're looking at exercise for heart related and to be healthy. But if someone's first main focus is, I need to lose weight, I'm like, okay, so we put them on a body composition analysis, not a $30 machine, but it's a $10,000 machine. Body 570, it's FDA approved. That machine in 2 minutes, which I encourage everyone to go get it done. There's places everywhere in the US. You can go inbody.com and find a location. The reason why it's so important, and we use the 570 model because it shows you if you have fat around your organs. It also separates your water, muscle, and your fat all over your body. Now you get to know how many calories you need each day just to stay alive. Called your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, or your resting metabolic rate, your RMR. With that information, a lot of times people will take that, or they're doing calculations and they're going below. They think they have to go below their basal metabolic rate to lose weight. But that BMR is, and that number, whether it's 1,400, 1,900, 2,000, depending on how much muscle you have, when you go below that, you will store fat because your body wants to feed your organs. It doesn't know when it's going to get food again. And so it will take away your muscle and store your fat. So even if you're eating chicken and broccoli and you're eating too little, you will store fat. We've seen it. And I see I might see the weight go down, but it actually was water, muscle, not fat. And so the goal is and then same thing, sometimes people like, I can't gain weight. Well, are we eating enough food? Because what happens is people will say, well, okay, well now wait a second. How come with kids in Ethiopia, you're saying they should be fat because they're not eating? Well, their fat was taken away first, their muscle, and then their fat, because the body now survived on whatever it. And so it's getting those reports. Like I have a girl who her parents brought her in, she's 17, and they thought maybe she was overeating. She was she has a dance competition. She practices 4 hours a day for 4 days a week. So between, let's say if it's even 450 calories to 500 calories an hour that she's burning an extra 2,000 calories on top of her BMR. So she needs to be eating to sustain where she's at, let's say if it's 1,800 from her muscle, 3,800 calories just to stay where she's at, right? She could go a little less than 800. If she ate 2,800 calories, that's 1,000, and you could lose, say, 3 pounds, a pound in 3 days, let's say, because that's burning calories. But if she was eating below her BMR, she's storing fat. Because this girl was eating twice a day. That was it, very little. And we increased her food. She still increased it a little bit. And she started losing the fat because here she is dancing for 4 hours and she's gaining weight because she was eating too little. And the only way to know if something's working for you, no matter what program you are doing, I don't care if you're doing injectables, I don't care if you're doing the grapefruit diet or anything, whether you're fasting. If you don't know what the metrics are before, underneath, you got to look behind the scenes and look at your water, muscle, and your fat. You don't know what you're accomplishing, whether you're getting weight loss, the true fat loss that you're wanting, or are you actually burning your muscle off? And also, if we're not eating protein, we can't calculate protein exactly unless we have your basal metabolic rate, unless we have your data. We can now take it down to how many grams that you need, because your heart is also a muscle too, right? People think of, especially with my elderly clients, like they think they need to eat protein or eat less because they're not really moving. But again, with your basal metabolic rate, you need to eat above that, because that's just, if you stayed in bed all day long and did nothing, that's what you need just to sustain life. And people think if they sat all day long, they don't eat. But we are very intricate creatures, and we have a heart, we have a brain, we have all of that needs fueling.
What are the biggest misconceptions that you've seen surrounding nutrition or dieting?
The biggest misconception, I think, is, first of all, like that person that's giving you advice, have the data, to actually collect your data. So people think that, I think the biggest misconception, even for some people who have a really big following, I had one lady who, so my patient came in and told me that the lady that she was following online said that the longer your metabolism has been broken, the longer it's going to take to fix. And my response to her was, let me fix it in 3 months. I just need, let me take a look what you're eating. And she was like, you mean everything I ever learned was a lie? I'm like, everything you ever learned from this one person? Like, give me the science behind it. So the biggest misconception, honestly, is people think they need to eat less, move more to lose weight. But unless we do a scan, unless we write down every single thing that you're eating and drinking and looking at your sleep, looking at everything, the thing, that's number one, okay, is looking at that, because a diet might be great. The Mediterranean diet is amazing, right? Yeah, we see the data behind it. But you could be eating the Mediterranean diet, but eating too little or too much of something. So there's both sides. So no matter what style of diet that you're eating, are those the right metrics for you? Okay, that's number one. And I think that, again, another misconception is when I do the scan, I go, you're low in muscle. They go, oh yeah, I know I need to go back to the gym. I said, well, first we need to make sure you have enough protein, because people don't realize, or they forget, or don't know that unless you have the amino acids from the protein, you can't build your muscle. So you're doing the action of it, you're burning more calories, but you can't build muscle without the amino acids. You don't have to eat animal protein. You can eat vegan, but if you're having beans without the rice, or the quinoa is almost complete, there is a combination of taking like 5 or 6 vegetables and making it more of a complete protein. Or you can take, there's different companies that have amino acids that you can take to basically enhance the protein that you're having. So that, I think, is looking at the data is number one. No matter what you're doing, you have to have the data. And I tell people, even if I have distance, patients, I make them go get a scan. I don't take anyone on because then I'm using a crystal ball. It's really important to have that.
For insurances, so I love everything you're saying, but the idea generally is, or the misconception I would say is, oh, well, my insurance won't cover this, or this is going to cost me a fortune. Do you know if there are certain insurances that would cover something like this in clinics, or do people have to pay a ton?
I think there's some doctor's offices that has, some clinics might have that InBody. When I do a scan and I calculate the macronutrients, I also send them recipes and exercises via email if they want them. I charge $50 for that.
It's fees. Yeah.
A scan will cost $20. Okay. Anywhere you go, it's $20 for the scan.
The thing is, like, I keep hearing this from people as well. It's like, okay, well, why don't you try the X, Y, and Z? And they're like, well, I don't have the funds for it, or I don't have this for it. But I'm like, there are so many ways to actually be able to access the stuff without needing a tremendous amount of funds. And so I think that there is a thought that people think, well, this is just for the wealthy or the super wealthy, and I can't have access to it. What would you say to those people?
I would say the scan, and I'll just share with you, first of all, a lot of the shops that sell protein bars might have the body composition analysis machine, and you just go in there and buy a $3 protein bar, get the scan done. Now you have your numbers, but you don't have your calculation. Like the calculation, I think, here's the thing is, first of all, investing $50, okay, to have your scan done and have your macronutrients done, to have your carbs, your proteins, and fat, that's your macronutrient breakdown, right? To have those, I think it's pretty easy to budget $50 for that. Because
that's a week's worth of Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, we have programs in the office, that have different price ranges. You can do red light therapy, like my patients lose 2 pounds of fat with each time they come in for light therapy. But does somebody want to pay $70 each time they come in? Maybe not. Having your macronutrient breakdown and then having your exercise and walking outside is free. You could do push-ups. First of all, YouTube is free to use. Okay. There's so many exercises out there on YouTube if you look at body weight exercises, you can get in really great shape by using these free tools on YouTube. But I think here's the thing is, if you don't have, to me, $50 is so little to invest your health and what's going to cost you medication later on in life. Even your $5 copay of your medication, because now you're diabetic, right? You get $400 for $5 in 10 months. That's $50. Okay. What if you could avoid getting diabetes in the first place? Because now you are actually decreasing your lifespan, right? Like, we have to look at things. Also, getting your knee replaced. $50 just to have your breakdown and really wanting to live longer. There's a lot of knee surgeries that could be avoided, right? When we have, of course, if you were in a car accident, you were an injury from a sport or something like that, but the more weight you have above your knees, okay, which most of our weight is above our knees, right? We don't really gain weight. You say, oh my God, my calves have to lose 50 pounds. My calves happen, right? It's above. So every pound of fat, of weight, actually, above your knees is 4 pounds of pressure on your knees. So imagine, even losing 10 pounds is like 40 pounds of pressure. So your time, if you had to have it later on in life, if you have to have surgery on your knees, how much did it cost you not going to work for 2 weeks while you're recovering? A lot more than $50. And you can scan anywhere. And if somebody got the scan done somewhere for free, I would do the calculation for $30. Like, it's easy. Like, I don't mind because we're not using my machine. So I kind of look at it that, which is really, and you have to then be committed to going, I'm going to read labels now, right? Because I can give you the breakdown But then how do you know how much you're eating? Do you, look at the labels? Then we go, okay. And then that's where we could do coaching if somebody wanted to go further with me, but they could just start reading labels and go, okay, I'm going to have this protein shake that has, I need 25 grams of protein or 30. This has 30. Okay, now I'm allowed to have, let's say, for my body, I need 25 grams of carbs. Okay. Oh, that's 1.5 pieces of bread. Great. And then I need like 2 tablespoons of fat. How about I do half an avocado with it? Put the avocado on the bread, right? And I don't have time to grab some chicken, or I just don't eat animal protein. I'll just have a protein shake. So quickly you could do, right? You could grab bread or some fruit. You could put some almond butter with the fruit, and then it's protein shake. And now you have a complete source of protein, carbs, and fats, and balancing your body. So you can prevent disease later in life.
That's so brilliant. I think there's really a lot of people get overwhelmed with all the information that they hear. They don't know how to vet it out. And honestly, you're talking to me and I'm like, I should probably go do the scan. Like, this would be a great idea for me to go do this. And I think for a lot of people, it's like this, and my point in all this is that it's not out of reach. It's something that people can access, and they should access, and they should reach out and be able to do these things as much as possible. Do you recommend like a certain age?
Younger, because like, for example, like you won't know, like if you gain 5 pounds, right? It could be muscle. It could be just water, right? Inflammation. You drink a bottle of water, 16 ounces. So I feel it's important to even have it when you're in high school. I'll tell you, we have athletes that they go, I don't know what happened. I don't know why he,
collapsed.
You're like, he was healthy, but maybe he wasn't eating enough food to give his body energy and it got tired. We don't know, right? So also, I have a girl who came in. She was 26 years old. She's getting married. She's had, here she is. She tells me, I need to lose 7 pounds. And I was like, okay. She was so thin, but she had this tiny little layer in front of her tummy that bothered her. But because the scale was 7 pounds less 2 years ago, she thought that she needed to lose 7 pounds. So I love to show people things. So I have like a 5-pound block of fat. It's like literally takes this much space. 1 pound is about this much. Muscle takes about this much of 5 pounds of muscle, 1 pound of fat. They're almost about equal of space they take up in the body. So this girl comes, I go, because now had she had the scan before, she could just say, oh, I gained muscle. It's really nothing. But I was able to show her that with the fat, I said, okay, 7 pounds of fat, no problem. So I put 5, 6, 7 pounds of fat in front of her. And her waist wasn't even that the width, right? She goes, I go, 7 pounds? She goes, maybe not. Okay. I go, how about 2 pounds? And she goes, it's okay. So then I took the 1 pound fat, I cut it up in pieces, I put it on a platter. And I said, how about half a pound? And she goes, I said, how do you feel? She goes, I feel amazing. If she didn't see that, and she could see on the scan, I showed her, like, you don't have weight to lose. This half pound that bothers you, right? Let's say it was literally the width of how my hand is. That was just, that part bothered her because her wedding dress, she wanted to be flat. And so I was able to show her because of the scan. I could have told her all I wanted. I showed her the scan and then able to show her the fat models and go, look, is it really 7 pounds? And she goes, huh. And she felt great. And it took the struggle away. I guess that's my mastery, is taking the struggle away, what someone's struggling with. And we can do that with education. We can do that with data. We can show that with things. And that's where my thing was. I was very sick years ago and I couldn't drive my kids to school. So, I was getting dizzy for 2.5 years. I went to so many doctors. I had really bad pain in my abdomen. And I was like, one day I just sat on my bathroom floor with sweat pouring on my body with agonizing pain, asked God to help me be normal again. And I promised him that I would help as many people as I can. And 2 days later, I got directed to a place. My friend was an RN said, Penny, there's a place that helps with food sensitivity testing. Maybe get rid of your indigestion. And that was my only hope, was for that. And when they scanned me, and I do the same scan in the office too, my top 3 foods not to eat were bananas, black tea, and strawberries. And they might be great, but I was over consuming them. I was putting strawberries in my protein shake every day. I cut them out. I had no more pain in my abdomen. I was having half a banana, grabbing, eating in the car, taking my kids to school. And on the way to school, I was getting dizzy. I have to pull over. My poor kids would sit there, wait patiently, to get to school. When I cut out the bananas, I had no more dizziness. And when I cut out the black tea, I had no more indigestion. I got my life back. So it's
that
having
detailed
data. It's crazy, right? Like that's where.
Okay, well, what kind of other details does it show you?
We can scan different organs of the body, but also shows the different foods. I do mostly that in the office just to make sure that we get rid of those food sensitivities. That people who had one patient, carrots were causing her to have massive pain in the abdomen. I had another one, it was coffee was causing indigestion and pain in her abdomen. We cut those up. She was totally could digest her food now. I had another lady, this was interesting, between when I was moving clinic 7 years ago now. And I told this lady at the gym, because she was having arthritis issues. And I said, look, open up my other clinic, come in, I'm going to scan you. And in the meantime, I saw her 2 weeks later. And she's, oh my God, I couldn't wait to see you. And I'm like, what happened? She says, I was sick and I couldn't drink my coffee because I was nauseated and my arthritis went away. So she had been taking medication for arthritis. And because it was a sensitivity from that food, which was coffee, was causing the symptoms of arthritis, that it completely went away when she got rid of the coffee. So data is key, especially like even with data, collected data for like therapy. Like I helped my sister and my YouTube Kairos Wellness. You could see my sister had a stroke 5 years ago. And 2.5 years after she had the stroke, we put red light therapy on her after I watched a webinar on Alzheimer's and light therapy. And I said, maybe I can help my sister. And in 5 sessions with 5 20-minute sessions, she went from to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And because of that, which you've interviewed Dr. Trent, who I'm friends with, he was like, whoa, that's amazing. You need to get a cognitive view. So then we got a machine in the clinic to collect data to show that we could see memory and cognition improving each time the patients use red light therapy.
Does it help with severe cases of Alzheimer's?
No, I would say not. I would say it might help with once we get
early stages.
Our researchers. That's why I send everybody to Dr. Trent scans, but there was data that showed that there's studies that show it's helped Alzheimer's patients. There's sometimes a point where too much has far gone, right? But there are, like Dr. Trent does clinical research for Alzheimer's.
For Alzheimer's, yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing. So many different
If people haven't watched his episode yet, go watch it. He's fire. He's just so much fun.
He's amazing. I do have to get to the office. I was just looking at the time. We had a little technical difficulties. We had to start a little later, but do you want to ask me any other couple questions that you want to ask me before I go?
Where can people find you? How can they get to your clinic?
Wellness.com. So my last name, then wellness.com. Also on Instagram, Foskaris and Foskaris Wellness, and YouTube as well.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Penny, for being here with us today. It was just so much for me to learn and so much for our audience to learn. It was such a pleasure. For those of you who are listening, you can find us at KPU_California on Instagram and social media for Kairos Pacific University. And if you're looking to connect with me, you can find me at The Word with Rita. And then we'll see you in the